They called them the boys. Not because they were children. The youngest was 24, the oldest 32. But to their families in Yuba City, California, that's what they were. There were 5. Ted Weir, 32, friendly enough to greet strangers like old friends. Jack Madruga, 30, the only one with a car and a license, careful and steady, proud of his 1969 Mercury Montego. Bill Sterling, 29, deeply religious. Jackie Hewitt, 24, the youngest, who couldn't read or write. And Gary Mathias, 25, who lived with schizophrenia but was stable on his medication. They'd met playing basketball at a center for people with disabilities. Most had mild intellectual disabilities or psychiatric conditions, and the next morning they had a tournament, the Special Olympics in Sacramento, with a trip to Los Angeles as first prize. They were excited about it. So, on the night of February 24, 1978, they drove an hour north to Chico to watch a college basketball game. Afterward, they stopped at a market for snacks. Then they started home. They had a game in the morning. Every reason to go straight home and sleep. They never made it. When the boys didn't return, their families called the police. Days passed. Then the car turned up. Not on the road home. Madruga's Montego was found abandoned on a snow-packed mountain road in the Plumas National Forest, roughly 70 miles in the wrong direction, east, up into the mountains, in the dead of winter. And here's the first thing that doesn't make sense. The car wasn't wrecked. It wasn't truly stuck. There was still gas in the tank. Investigators said it could have been driven out or pushed free of the shallow snow. The doors were unlocked. One window was down. The keys were gone, and so were the men. Madruga loved that car. He was not a man to drive it up a frozen mountain in the dark and walk away. But that's what the scene said had happened. The search began. Then the snow shut it down. For months, nothing. In June, the snow melted. A motorcyclist on the forest trails came across a Forest Service trailer, about 20 miles from the car. A window was broken open. Inside was a body. It was Ted Weir. What they found in that trailer is the part no one has ever explained. Ted had been alive in there a long time. He'd vanished clean-shaven. He was found with a full beard. The autopsy estimated he survived 6 to 13 weeks before dying of starvation and cold. He'd wasted to almost nothing, and he died in a trailer stocked with food. There were cans inside. A locker nearby held enough to feed all 5 men for over a year. There were matches, fuel, a propane tank. Almost none of it was touched. Ted hadn't opened the full stores. He hadn't lit a fire. His body was wrapped carefully in sheets, as if someone had cared for him. His shoes were gone. His feet were frostbitten. On the table beside him sat his ring, his wallet, and a gold watch, one that belonged to none of the 5 men. No one has ever explained whose it was. And there was one more thing in that trailer, a pair of shoes. They belonged to Gary Mathias. In the following days, searchers found the others, Madruga and Sterling, miles away on opposite sides of a canyon road. Then Jackie Hewitt, less than a mile from the trailer. Months of exposure had taken their toll. It was never clear if all of them had even reached the trailer. 4 of the 5 were accounted for. Gary Mathias was not. His shoes were in the trailer. Ted's were missing. Investigators believed the 2 had been there together, and that Mathias may have taken Weir's larger shoes, better for the snow, and left his own behind, which suggests Mathias was alive after Ted died, that he walked out into the wilderness in another man's shoes. He has never been found. There was one witness, Joseph Shones. He said that same night he was stranded nearby in his own car, having a heart attack. He claimed he saw headlights, heard voices, thought he saw a woman and maybe a baby among them. He called for help. The lights went dark, the voices went quiet, and no one came. Investigators could never confirm how much he truly saw and how much was a man in medical crisis. So, here's what we're left with. 5 men who loved basketball, excited for a trip, with every reason to drive straight home. A working car, abandoned 70 miles off course, pointed up into the mountains in winter. A starving man who sat in a room full of food and warmth and used almost none of it. A stranger's watch on a bedside table. A friend who put on another man's shoes and walked out into the snow. Madruga's mother said it plainly. She didn't believe her son drove up there on his own. She said some force made them go. Why did they drive into the mountains, away from home? Why leave a car that still ran? Why did Ted Weir die of hunger and cold, surrounded by food and fuel? And, after all these years, where is Gary Mathias?